we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Hey guys, it's Elena. Welcome back to my channel. This week we're making a strawberry dress. Well, strawberries and blueberries. This dress is probably the easiest, most comfiest dress I've ever made and worn. So it's definitely a treat and I'm in love with it. So I'm gonna walk you through and you can make one exactly like this. So for this dress, this is the pattern that I used. I actually got this pattern from Joann's for $2 when it was on sale. I saw it and thought it would just be a super good fit for something like this. I went ahead and got 2.5 yards of fabric for the one that I wanted to make. And then you also will need your sewing machine, matching thread, scissors, and pins.
We don't need no more.
Once I got all of that stuff, I cut out all my pieces and then just went at the bodice. So this dress is really easy. It doesn't have a zipper or a button loop at the top just because it is a stretchy fabric. So I'm just lining up at the shoulders and the side seams and then sewing along each of those to make my bodice piece.
Oh, well, you know what we have, let's hold on tight.
When it comes to sewing with stretch fabrics, there are some different ways that you want to treat it as opposed to doing something that's not really stretchy like cotton. So something that you want to do is sew with a zigzag or a stretch stitch instead of a normal straight stitch, and that will allow your stitch to kind of have a little bit of flex to it. It kind of sounds like weird, but you won't be able to tell that it's a zigzag stitch, but it will really help it in the long run when you go to put on your dress. I also am using a walker foot. My sewing machine is a little bit old, so that just kind of helps things stay a little bit more secure, but totally not necessary. So once you have done your bodice, it's time to do the sleeves. I went ahead and did a 3/4 sleeve. So it's a little bit longer, but not totally a long sleeve. So I am pinning up the bottom of each sleeve, sewing that, and then you can attach that and pin it to your bodice.
Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
It's also a really good idea before you start stitching anything on your dress to always do a practice trial run on your fabric just to make sure that everything is looking right.
But things are finally right.
So once you have sewn your sleeve, basically the way that I always match up my sleeve to my bodice is I match up and nest on the seams and get them really nice and lined up, and then I flip over the rest of my bodice so that the armhole is on the inside and everything is right sides together, and then I can continue pinning along. But that's how I do it, and it helps me get it nice and secure, and I usually don't have problems when I do it this way.
No limit to what we can do.
Once it's all pinned and nice and straight, it's time to just attach it with your zigzag stitch again.
For in life, call us crazy, but things are finally right.
Also, before you attach your sleeve, do put on your bodice and make sure that you like the fit of it. I have a little bit more narrow shoulders, and so I trimmed the bodice at the shoulder so it would sit straight on my shoulder, and this is the final result. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It was really good. So the only other thing I'm doing along that armhole is I am just slashing and adding some notches along that curve so that it can sit a little bit more flat. And then you're basically done with the bodice and it's time to move on to the skirt. Lucky me, this dress has pockets. I freaking love pockets. So I am just attaching those pockets right sides to the front of the skirt, and then you'll do the same exact thing for the back of the skirt. So you're just going to attach each pocket to each skirt panel, and then once you have done that, then you can put the skirt front and the skirt back together. So it's really important to make sure that your pockets are the same length down from the top so that when you go to put them together, they're matched up and you can get a nice and straight skirt.
We're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are fine.
So you're going to pin all the way down around the pocket and then down the rest of the skirt, and then you can just stitch along that pinned path. It's also really important that when you go around to those corners at the pocket front and end, that you do a really nice pivot, and that will make it look really crisp and straight when you put your dress right sides out. You don't want any puckering there.
Before I sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon.
After that, I chose the view of the pattern where it has a little ruffle. So I'm just sewing that little ruffle together so that I have one large hoop thing. And then I just decided to hem it now. It's totally not necessary to do it now, but I knew I would be happy with the length and everything was nice and straight. And so I just went ahead and folded up my fabric once, pinned it, and then sewed my zigzag stitch close to that edge. And you don't have to do a double folded hem or anything special with the raw edges because it is a stretch fabric, it won't fray.
Even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm.
So once you have done that and hemmed, you can go ahead and start gathering. So you need to gather your normal skirt, and then if you are doing that little ruffle at the bottom of the skirt, you need to also gather that. It's really important to change your stitch from a zigzag to a straight stitch and do a long basting stitch so that you can gather. I also really advise that you do 2 gathering stitches. I just find that it gives you a lot cleaner of a gather, and I have a video going over this if you are interested. I just talk a little bit more about it and go into depth. But once you have gathered that, you can line up those side seams for the skirt and the bodice and stitch all the way around, and then do the exact same thing to the ruffle to the skirt. And just make sure that you are putting the hem at the very bottom and you don't accidentally sew the hem to the top of the skirt.
You and I, we got it.
It's also really important when you do this step to use plenty of pins. I know I sure used a lot, and this just helps make sure that everything stays straight and that you're not accidentally catching any fabric on the bottom when you go to sew.
Before I sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon. Side by side and through and through.
And like I said before, you're gonna do the exact same process when you put on that ruffle. So here I am just putting that ruffle on, and I am really glad that I chose the pattern with the ruffle because in the end, it really does add a lot to it.
Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
After that, you can go ahead and finish off your sleeves and your neckline. So the pattern suggests just doing a narrow hem. So I just did the exact same thing that I did for the hem of the skirt. I just folded it up once and then sewed my zigzag stitch along just the very edge, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And here is the final dress, and oh my gosh, I am dead. How cute is this dress? I love the pattern. I'm really happy I picked the strawberries and blueberries, and it's just so, I just love it. It's something that you could just throw on if you want to go on a walk or go to the store. Oh, it's so cute. I hope you guys are able to make something like this and that inspires you to make your own comfy, easy dress. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, the good times just begun.